Heya folks, I run a series talking about every single episode of Baywatch, so you might say I'm a David Hasselhoff fan. But did you also know he was in a little show called Knight Rider? It's true! I'm late to the Knight Rider game, but after having just watched it all and sampling the many unlikely spin-offs it's produced, I can safely say I'm an expert now. If you're not familiar with the pop culture phenomenon that is Knight Rider, the premise involves Hasselhoff fighting crime with a talking car, and that is somehow one of the least crazy things about it. To give you an idea, the pilot starts with our lead getting shot in the face and having it replaced with that of an eccentric millionaire's younger self, which is actually a lot more complicated and soap opera when they expand on that later, and it turns out it's actually his evil son's face. There are 2 Amnesia episodes, and yes indeed, one of them is the car. Knight Rider is one of those shows that follows a lot of stock early 80s plots that can be a slog to get through, so you're going to be spending copious amounts of time watching old white dudes in 3-piece suits discussing real estate or whatever, but when you get to the good stuff, damn it's good. In Season 3, they did a Halloween episode, so let's explore Halloween Night.
Sunday on Knight Rider. A Halloween murderer's tricks are no treat for Michael. And what's the secret of the haunted house?
Don't want to know.
A special Knight Rider Sunday.
Michael, Kit, Devin, Bonnie. Now you know the gang. We begin with Bonnie, Kit's mechanic and fashion icon. She's just moved into a new apartment and things are off to a bad start. Not only is she sick, but her neighbors are having a noisy Halloween party. But little does she know, things are about to get a whole lot worse when she witnesses a gorilla murdering someone.
Oh fudge, perhaps I shouldn't have killed her in front of this big open window.
That's right guys, it's a whodunit, and everyone's a suspect. Okay, but you can't just play spooky music over a gardener and then expect us to find it scary.
How you doing, sweetheart?
Physically, I'm feeling better. Emotionally, I'm really glad you came by.
I spend like 95% of my time talking to a car. Are you sure you want me here for emotional support?
Ever our likable hero, Michael writes off Bonnie's harrowing experience as a cold medicine-induced hallucination. That's right, it's the old Rear Window plot. One of our heroes witnesses something they routinely deal with, and the other leads become patronizing jerkwads because the plot calls for it.
A murder? Pfft, get real. Alright, sweetheart, let's get this over with so I can get back to playing Atari in my talking car. An empty apartment? Now I know someone couldn't possibly have been killed here.
But Michael has nothing better to do and decides to talk to the neighbors. He literally just tells this woman his name is Michael, says he heard there was a party there the night before, and asks if he can come in. He doesn't, say he's investigating anything, or who he's with, or even just a general idea of what he wants. But she lets him in anyway? Maybe there's a reason murders go undetected in this apartment complex.
But no one came dressed as a gorilla. That I remember. Because I like hairy men.
Can't take down her number.
While dumb neighbor lady says there was no gorilla, Michael finds some evidence to suggest otherwise.
Kit, scan this.
Certainly, Michael. This episode is confirmed for dumb. Okay, I kid you not. It's real gorilla hair, which is the clue they used to track down where the costume was bought. Not an Edgar Allan Poe situation where the killer is actually a monkey, though that would be hilarious. Just somewhere, someone sells real gorilla hair suits. Which, yeah, I don't know, doesn't seem legal or practical. Oh well, time to get potted up.
Please don't hurt me. Hurt you? You almost potted me into the pavement.
So what's the deal with this guy and his gardening-based brand of horror? Well, according to him, the pot was an accident. He's just your average bumbling custodian, Norman Baines. Norman Baines.
I'm Norman Baines.
If ever there was an omen of what wonderful madness is to come, this is it. He's played by good old Kurt Paul, Anthony Perkins' stunt double, who's been in 3 other reviews I've done now. What a career to have, being typecast as someone else's typecast. This guy had it made. If you pay close attention, you might notice this episode has a running theme.
Bonnie, we got the rights to this music, right?
It's okay, Michael, we're Universal.
Oh, thank God. I thought we were really pushing it with that Norman Baines thing.
When they find an empty tub, Bonnie takes comfort in the Hoff's chest hair. Say, someone got permission to go through the lighting section of Universal's prop department, which is somehow supposed to be a costume shop? This all leads to Michael finding the totally real gorilla hair suit and several clues involving Bonnie's neighbors, including blonde woman, blonde man in distracting shorts, and of course everyone's favorite creepy custodian, Norman Baines. Michael does a questionable accent.
How could you trace it so fast?
Aha, I read ticket on hanger.
But anyway, the important part is this. Gorilla with a car! Gorilla with a car! Oh man, instead of 2 guys carrying a sheet of glass, we've got a whole truckload of it. That's classic Knight Rider. Okay, but we can agree that they totally wrecked some innocent people's stuff while chasing a gorilla, right? Also, really think about this for a moment. Michael is holding the gorilla suit, which means the killer had to buy another gorilla suit in order to chase him down. You might be thinking they're stretching for reasons for the car to be involved in this episode at all, and you'd be right.
Michael, sometimes I wonder if you really need me.
But that's okay, because Kit has this awesome subplot.
Would you kindly get that black fur ball off my roof?
Why? Every week, there's some cartoonish character actor bothering Kit for some really contrived reason, but a witch in a cheap Halloween costume is a little hard to swallow, even for this show. Apparently, she wants to use him for the Witches and Warlocks ball? What? Why do they need a car for a ball? And why was she drawing a pentagram? What is the sequence of events here? And I'm sorry, let's loop that back. Witches and Warlocks ball?
It's so difficult to find a good warlock these days.
Have you tried Warlocks Anonymous?
She threatens to put a curse on them because they won't let her use Kit as her witchmobile? I don't know, man. I know things are pretty dire, what with dead bodies and all, but that doesn't mean our heroes can't take a little time for some hilarious pranks.
Joe! What is my point in this episode?
And that's not the only frightening thing around here.
1-900-490-FREAK. Join the party, the fast and easy way to hear what's scamming from New York to LA. Call now.
Well, that's quite possibly one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. I've got to stop this before it gets even goofier.
Meanwhile... Okay, there's an homage, and then there's just straight up doing Psycho for no reason. Oh, come on! It is pretty funny to have our lead stalking our red herring like he's the real murderer, though.
Hello, Norman.
The Hoff confronts him head on. He's the killer, isn't he? Isn't he?
Pumpkins.
I always ready to pass tonight before Halloween.
Aw, he's just a pumpkin thief. Stupid. Well, it was kind of strange to include a copy of Norman Bates in this for no reason, but it's not like they go to the actual Bates house. Oh man, oh man, oh man! They've just kept up the stuff from the Universal Studios tours. Astounding.
Boy, this place looks really familiar.
Michael! Don't go to the beach with those dirty girls. Your career will never take off without me, Michael.
If you've ever had the strong desire to see Kit from Knight Rider driving along the road set to the synthesizer version of the Psycho soundtrack, please watch this episode. You will never regret it.
Jeez, what a dump. We should really talk to an old white guy in a 3-piece suit about tearing this place down.
The stupid puppet demon thing was saying an address backwards, so they follow the clues into the really obvious trap. As the promo asks, what's the secret of the haunted house?
And what's the secret of the haunted house?
And by haunted house, I mean the haunted house's shed. They're not actually gonna go into the Psycho house. And it's nothing, just a dead body. Once they make the gruesome discovery, they're locked in as someone tries to gas them. Sounds like classic Norman Baines.
We're not being gassed, Bonnie. You're just seeing things. Typical female behavior.
It's times like this where a sentient car really comes in handy. With his impenetrable, crash-proof shell, he can bust right into that shed. Time to do some real damage. Oh yeah! Or use his grappling hook. Psh, weak. Also, question, how were they being gassed? Was it just in the walls like a Home Alone trap or what?
Ah, now I see why I'm in the episode, to hold the umbrella. Thank God I was around.
And what about the owner of this creepy haunted house?
Used to belong to his mother.
Okay, unless Norman Bates is gonna come busting into the scene to knife Michael in the face, they can't possibly fulfill anything they're promising.
At last, a compelling reason for me to be here.
When is it not fun time at Flag headquarters? Devin is holding a Halloween party that's very important to him for some unexplained reason, so everyone has to go.
Kid, I know how important this party is to Devin.
And Michael is dressed like Rhett Butler? Happy Halloween! Okay, so here's the whole complicated spiel, which was totally necessary for the Knight Rider Halloween special, by the way. The person who owns the creepy house is Bonnie's landlord, who also owns stocks in many lucrative businesses, including a special effects company.
But I got some special effects of my own, like making you disappear for 20 years, man.
The woman who died lived in Bonnie's new apartment, and she had an affair with the landlord, blackmailing him into paying her off and bleeding his company dry. Landlord's daughter is Stupid Neighbor Lady, but he also has a son from a previous marriage, Stupid Neighbor Man, who has been in and out of mental institutions between helping his dad run his various businesses. Bonnie has taken Norman Baines to Devin's Halloween party, and he's wearing a mask from Halloween 3, which causes him to choke on some champagne and apparently means he has to rest up.
If I could maybe just rest a minute.
You'd think this was for a mask switch up with the killer, but no, he just turns into Torgo and tries to cop a feel. The near-miss sexual assault is oddly brushed over. The actual killer, Shorts McDorkface, is waiting in a night costume, I guess on the off chance Bonnie goes into that room, which really says a lot about security at Flag headquarters. He's been looking for a key Bonnie found that opens a deposit box containing a tape of his father's affair. He could have easily just knocked on her door and made up some story about losing a key and avoided this whole murderous situation, but I digress. He planned to kill the mistress and frame his father for the murder so he can inherit his business. He was trying to discredit Bonnie with all of these shenanigans, but now that he's blabbed his whole plan for no reason, he has to kill her too. Michael and Devin look amazing. Oh my god, there's a sword battle. This episode is beautiful from start to finish. Oh come on, you can see the sword flopping around.
I suppose Denise was next, huh? I wonder how you plan to get rid of her. Your wondering days are over, Knight!
Karate chop!
In any other show, this would be the end, but because they have to have Kid involved, this turns into another car chase. And then, the episode impossibly tops itself.
Not now, Barry. Here comes the good part.
Thank you! Thank you to the writer, director, and God himself. Possibly the greatest hour of television ever made?
Way to go, Red!
Please, for the love of God, watch this episode of Knight Rider. After Michael gloats a while and presumably does an air guitar on top of Kid alongside some sweet pyrotechnics, the episode wraps up and everyone is a dream in pink. But I think we've left one important storyline unfinished. This lady was just fooling. She wasn't really a witch. Or is she? Magic is real, cars can talk, and you can indeed Hasselhoff. This was a majorly enjoyable piece of entertainment, and one of the best Knight Rider episodes ever. I mean, there's a lot of things that don't make sense when you really think about it, but that's about average for this show. The strange Psycho references, the overly complicated plot, and the amazing chase sequence at the end created the perfect potion for Halloween magic. You can watch the whole thing for free on NBC's website, and I highly recommend you do, because there is a lot to unpack here. I guess the show's intro rings true. One man, one talking car, one stunt double, one ridiculous hologram, one gorilla, and one witch can make a difference.